Hello, everyone. If you are here watching the replay, my name is Tatum Tamia Ayomike. I am the CEO of Anchor Media. And here at Anchor Media, we build profitable podcasts. We work with the everyday person who has a message that they want to share with the masses. And we take that message and we push it out so that they can make impact, as well as make income from their platforms. So today I'm going to be talking with one of our alumni from our Find Your Voice Academy retreat. Tyra is going to be joining us. If you want to learn how to work with Anchor Media, or if you want to attend our next retreat, go to anchormedia.com, or you can click the link in our bio and it'll take you straight to the information about our open house that's coming up on May 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I see Tyra is here, so let me invite her in. Hey, okay, we both got braids. Summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Let me type in a caption and then I'll pin it and we can start from there.
Okay.
How are you doing today, Tyra?
I'm good. How you doing?
I am doing good. Cannot complain. Excited to talk to you.
Yes. I'm excited to be here.
Uh-oh. It's wrong. Hello, everybody that's joining in. If you have any questions about podcasts or building a profitable podcast, drop them in the comments and myself and Tyra will be happy to answer them for you. Open house. All right. Let me post this. Comment. Okay, got it. All right. So, Tyra, let's start from the beginning. I want to talk about not just about the Academy and Anchor Media, but I want to talk to you about why you started a podcast, the thought that went behind that, the mission of your show. So let's start from there. What made you become a podcaster?
So it all started after I had my son August 2018. I was just going through a lot. I was dealing with like postpartum anxiety, but I was never tested for that.
Okay.
So, so that was how it all started. I was just dealing with a lot. And then I was listening to your podcast and I was feeling in my spirit, like, okay, God, you want me to do a podcast? And then I felt like God told me. And then I ended up talking to somebody and they just told me like, you need to do a podcast. So it was confirmation that I needed to do it. And can you still hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay, because it's scrolling. Okay, so there was confirmation that I needed to go ahead and do it, and then I was like, okay, this is super uncomfortable, but I'm just gonna do it. So I just started doing a little research, and then because of everything that was happening with me at the time, I was thinking like, man, I wonder if my grandma had a journal. Like, I wish somebody could help me figure out what's going on in my life, because I was just dealing with so much at the time. And I was just thinking like, man, like my mom, like somebody, like at this point in my life, I felt like nobody had taught me anything. Like, I felt like I was an adult. I didn't have a purpose. Like, I thought fashion was my purpose. That was what I wanted to do since I was a little kid, since 5th grade, but it wasn't. I just felt so lost, like confused, worried all the time. I was like so insecure. Like, I didn't have any confidence in who I was, where I was going. I felt like I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. And I just really wish I had like somebody from like my grandma or somebody's journal to lean on, because at that point in time I had to go back to therapy. And my therapist was telling me like, did I journal? I'm like, no. Every therapist I had ever been to actually told me, that asked me, did I journal? And I would say like, oh yeah, sometimes, not really. But I just really started to feel like, wow, if somebody had left me like this blueprint to their life and my family, maybe I wouldn't be going through this. Maybe if I knew that I needed a relationship with God to heal, that I wouldn't be going through this. Like, I didn't know how important my faith was to my healing. And I didn't know how important journaling was to my healing either until I started to journal at that time after I had him. And until I started dealing, like, I literally had to hit rock bottom in order to continue on. And that's basically how the podcast came to be.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So for those of you guys who are joining us, Tyra is the host of It's Not Your Diary podcast. And when she first applied to come to our retreat, I really enjoyed reading her application because I thought this podcast is something that's very different. And so one of the key things that we like to teach our podcasters is that your show needs to have a unique selling proposition. And so having this story, this testimony, this message inside of you is great, and it is unique to you, but we have to then take that and package it into a show that's marketable in order for that show to make money. And so what I loved about Tyra's story and her podcast, because the show was already out before she came to us, and so what I loved about her podcast was that this wasn't just an important testimony, but it's something that's different, right? We have shows about healing and shows about growing and the different growing pains and things that we face as women. But her show took it a step further, and it's very specific to how journaling can be a tool. And her specific way of journaling can be a tool that can then be passed down to generations, and wisdom that can be left for her son, for his son, for the children that are to come through her lineage. And so I just really wanted to hone in on that unique selling proposition to show how you can have this story, you know, being in this position where you're a new mother, you're experiencing this anxiety around being a new mother and looking for the solution to navigate that and looking for the wisdom to help you navigate that. You turn that story into now something that you can teach to others. So you did the show, you put the show out. It's this passion project. You got it done. You got over the fear of being on a microphone. You did it. What happened after you launched? And then what was missing that made you come to Anchor Media?
So after I launched, I actually didn't tell anybody. I recorded like the whole first season, and
Wow.
I never told anybody until after it was done. It was like a few weeks that went by, and I finally sent it to my friends like, oh, y'all, I finally started the podcast. I said I was going to start. If y'all want to listen, you can go listen. But honestly, I felt like I wasn't qualified to be doing this because I just didn't think that I had anything to say, even though like I was sharing my journey and what I had been through. I didn't have confidence in like what I was saying, even though it was true to who I was. I wasn't leaning into God like I should have been. But then that's like, as I kept going, like my confidence built up, like, okay, God, like, you put this in me, so that means I got to continue to grow closer to you so that it can become what you need it to be. And then I came to Anchor Media because I needed to be able to like figure out how can I craft the message, how can I market. Like, I don't like social media, so I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I needed help. Just I guess I needed confirmation too, because that's one of the things that I got, like, okay, God, you know exactly what I need. And he gave it to me when I came. He gave me literally everything that I needed in confirmation. Like, you told me things that God had already spoke to me, and it was just all confirmation. Like, you need to put out a journal. You need to build a community. Like, these are just things that he had put in my heart. And so I was super happy that I did, because I didn't know. I was lost. I didn't know. I was walking blind. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
So then you came to our retreat, and this was actually our first virtual retreat. So because of COVID, we couldn't do it in person. And so you came to the virtual experience. Tell everybody about what that experience was like and some of the takeaways that you got for your show.
So I loved the virtual experience. I was a little hesitant at first because I'm like, oh, I already have problems like talking, like just being open with a lot of different people. But it was great because like we still got to sit at the table with all the other girls and like talk about our stories and our podcast and what God was doing through us in our shows and everything. So it was just great to hear other stories, and like they were all unique, and like how we could network. So like I'm meeting these other girls, they have their podcast, and like I've been through some of these same things that their shows are surrounded around. So I'm like, oh, this is a great networking thing. Like, so now I'm going to be actually working with some of the other girls who have these other shows, and like being able to utilize their followers, their listeners. And so that was one thing. I love being able to network with the girls. The virtual retreat was just great because, I mean, I'm already kind of like private, so it was good because I was just at an Airbnb by myself, and I was just interacting. I was like, oh, God, you must have knew I needed this, because maybe I wouldn't have been this open if I was face-to-face, but that was just me. And then some other things that I got, like the marketing was great. I don't know anything about marketing, so like all the things that I learned about the marketing was amazing, because it's like, okay, this is a message that needs to get out there, but I don't know how to get it out there. Like so many of us have these secrets that our families carry, or like these generational spirits, like that we are carrying and we don't even know. So like being able to get the message out there that it's okay to own your brokenness, it's okay to carry everything that you are and present it to the world and journal through it and leave that, because like exactly where you are is exactly what your family might need, or somebody else, a stranger. Like you don't know what the next person needs. So it was just great to get the tools to be able to spread this powerful message.
Uh-oh, Tyra, you went out.
Oh,
Okay,
am
you
I
back.
back?
The last thing we heard is
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
tools.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
The last thing we heard was it was good to get the tools.
Oh yeah, it was just good to get the tools to spread such a powerful message. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how God wanted me to do it. And even like the spiritual aspect, like I said, my faith is such a strong part of how the podcast continues to grow, because God is the one leading me. And then even like learning about the creativity side, like how we can, like it's okay for us to be the ones to create all the content. Like that's what I do. So just like understanding and knowing that exactly what God has been pushing me to do as far as creating my content, doing the photo shoots on my own, like learning how to do a photo shoot on my own. It's amazing. And I learned how to do that virtually. And then learning how to create my message, and how to, like, if I know that this is what the listeners need to hear, or this is just what I'm going through, like that, so that they can understand it more, so that in just learning how to put it out there, because I had a hard time, because sometimes I was getting in my own head, and that I feel like the retreat really helped me understand, like, you are on the right path. Just keep going. Like, you can do it. And I'm happy that it was virtual, because I think that I just needed that little part.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't know I needed it either.
I'm glad that you touched on some of the my favorite aspects of the retreat. The number one being community,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, especially with podcasting, we're by ourselves. You record, you're at home, wherever it is that you record, you're by yourself, and so you're trying to get into this industry where you're not quite sure where to find like-minded people to grow with. And one of the strategies that a lot of people use to grow their podcast listenership is by having guests, and so a lot of people do these days, like podcast swaps. So you come on my show, I come on your show, and we help our listeners grow. But a lot of times you don't have that community to reach out to. Of course, you can find the podcast on like the podcast app or SoundCloud or something like that, but you're just cold calling, so to speak. Email, know these people. And so that's what I love about the community aspect of these retreats, is that we get to know like-minded people. And also one of my favorite things is when we partner you guys together with people who have similar shows to you. And so one of the activities we do at the retreat is you have to record a podcast episode. After you record it, I then partner everybody with someone who is either their target audience or speaks their language. So for example, we have Charlotte in here commenting. Charlotte is a nurse. And so we had another nurse on at the retreat. And so we were able to partner them together. So that way there's a certain language that nurses speak. And so if they would have partnered with me, I wouldn't know what either of them were talking about. But them being able to come together and give each other feedback on their shows with that basic level of understanding and that common ground that they had is beneficial. We've done partnerships in previous retreats where we had someone who was she was targeting somebody in like Generation Z. And she was an older woman. And so we partnered her with someone in Generation Z so that person can listen to her podcast and say, okay, this is what's appealing to my generation and this what isn't. Like you're saying this, but that's not connecting with me. Here are some ways that you can improve the content that will allow you to be a lot more effective. So that community aspect is one of my personal favorite things about the retreat. And like Charlotte said in the comments, they're still friends. We have people from our very first retreat in 2019 who are still on calls every week with each other. So that community aspect really is one of my favorite things. But in addition to that, though, we do cover strategy. So we talk a lot about faith, but we have to have a strategy to match our faith, right? We can pray, we can fast all day. And that's going to help you really reach to a deeper level, the audience that you're called to. But you have to then apply that to a strategy that's going to get that listenership out there. So tell us a bit, because you, after coming to the retreat, you also joined our program, which is our group program that we offer at the end of every retreat. So talk to us about what made you join the program. And then after learning those strategies and working with us and applying them, how did that impact the bottom line for your show?
Okay, so I really wanted to come because I knew I would get a one-on-one, and then I would kind of get a breakdown of like what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, what are some revenue opportunities that I could possibly seek out. And then I could also get in that community and ask questions because I needed to know, like, okay, am I on the right path? And then it was so crazy because right after we started, I ended up getting like a 300%, over 300% increase. And like, I just got a lot of people reaching out, like, and I just didn't know that that's what I was missing, even though I was having such a hard time. Like, I'm like, God, okay, I know I'm supposed to be doing this. Like, I just don't know, like, what am I missing? And it was like, wow, once you said, like, this is what we're doing, I'm like, okay, I know this is what I need because I need something more. Like, I know that I'm not doing enough, and I know God put me in this place for a reason. I need this community. I need to be able to get more. Like, I need to be able to put everything that I've learned during the academy, during the retreat into works, but then I also needed to understand, like, okay, so I did this, now what?
Good. And so I'm so glad, like I love percentages. So for y'all that don't know, I'm always asking for percentages because we look so much a lot of times at the number, like, oh, my listenership. So, but what's the percentage of increase? Because once we start applying these strategies that you're learning in the program, then we're starting to learn what works, what doesn't work, so that we can do more of what works and less of what doesn't. And so you getting that increase, and you said 300%.
Yeah, it was like over 300%.
That's amazing. So let's give you your flowers right now. Like, amazing. And so after just continuing though to add, because we went over multiple strategies, like every month program, I gave you guys something different to do. So what is some of that continued success? Even now, after being out of the program for a little bit, what has been that continuous success as you continue to grow the show?
Okay, so my season actually did end a few weeks ago, but I've still been using the same strategies. So I actually just checked, and I'm still at like 70% of an increase. And I'm just like, just thankful because I haven't done, like, I don't feel like I've been like on social media as much as I needed to be. Like, I haven't been doing much, but it's like, it's just the strategies that I learned have been working for me without me having to do so much. Like,
And I'm so glad that you touched on that because a lot of people think And a lot of people think being on social media all the time is good marketing. And that's usually like an amateur thought process. You don't have to be on social media 24/7 in order to see your marketing be effective. And I teach you guys and everybody that I work with the importance of shared value. So one part of shared value is, what do you want to do? Do you want to be on social media all day? Do you want to be posting and creating and creating and creating? Think about that. Like, don't just do what you think you should be doing or what everybody else say you should be doing. Share value is also incorporating the elements of the life you want to live into your marketing strategy. And so understanding what's going to reach your audience while still maintaining your boundaries, because we don't want to build these platforms that we're a slave to. And so I'm glad that you touched on that, because a lot of the things teach in our program, of course we tell you to be on social media and to post and do video, but that's not the only way to increase listenership, right? We teach you strategies that have nothing to do with being physically online so that you can see that increase month after month. And but if you were on social media, that would help, but it's not the end all be all, because like she said, she's still getting 70% increases without even being online. So I'm so glad that you touched on that. How has the podcast impacted the sales? Because you started selling your journal. How have you then been able to make sales as a result of the podcast?
It's been great. Honestly, I feel like even before, I was selling like shirts last summer, and I didn't really sell as many.
Oh, you went blank again.
Am I
Okay.
back? Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't. Okay, so last summer I didn't sell as many shirts as I wanted to, but then like this January, I launched the journals and everything, and I ended up selling almost all of them. I ended up having like 5 left over, and I was just like, again, I wasn't doing anything, physically. Like, I wasn't posting all the time. So it was just great. And just being able to say like, oh, visit our store, or just sending out emails to the new people that are subscribing. It just makes it a lot easier when you don't have to do that much work. You can just send people to your list, and then they go ahead and order. So
that's amazing. I'm so proud of you, Tyra. Like, I can't even enough. And I want to bring it full circle back to the mission, because we can talk about the numbers increasing, of course, and the money that is made by selling products. But you started this show because you wanted to teach people this way of journaling to where they're now impacting generations. And I think about my grandmother right now, where I would love to get a journal from her to read about everything that she's gone through in her life, and to read about how she navigated being a mom and how she navigated these things, and to just take those lessons. Of course, we can talk about it, but that product, that's something that can go back to, is timeless. And so you're teaching people through this platform how to incorporate something into their lives that's going to impact generations. And so the mission there, and yeah, we've gotten these results, but imagine the people that are now being reached that you weren't reaching before as a result of just implementing these strategies. Can you actually talk about some of the countries that your show is in as a result of the things that you've been implementing that we taught?
Yes. So I've been in Australia, the UK, Ghana. I've been so many. I can't even remember, but it was just shocking because I'm like, huh? No. So yeah, I just didn't understand that I would be in different countries. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, family, friends, maybe a few people here and there. But yeah, it's been all over. Even people, I don't know, maybe they translated to a different language. I don't know. But it's just amazing to see like that these people are getting the opportunity to understand, like, it's okay for me to heal. It's okay for me to leave this journal. It's okay for me to journal. And I've even been encouraging people to do video journaling, because some people don't want to just sit down and write out everything. But it's just like, I've been video journaling too if I'm too busy, but just taking the time to do something. And it's like, we know that when God saves us, that we should share our story. And because it's going to touch somebody, regardless of if you think it might not touch anybody, it's going to touch somebody. So like getting it out, and I'm just grateful that people from other countries are doing it, because it's like, this is going to save your family. Like, it's not just about you. Sometimes we get kind of selfish and we think like, oh, it's my life, I don't want to do that. But like, no, like, you going to therapy, you healing, like, it's going to save your family. Like, we don't even understand the power of like healing, the power of journaling, and the power of leaving our journals behind, regardless of what you do with them, regardless of what your family does. Like, they have now a blueprint. We talk about generational wealth all the time, but we don't talk about generational healing. We don't talk about how when we come to God, he can help us, and he does save us, and he does heal us. Like, he is a healer. Like, we never talk about that. So bringing light to the fact that we can bring this healing to our family's bloodline, because there's been so much trauma. Like, at what point does it stop? And that's what I'm just happy that it's getting out there, and it's just getting to the people that it needs to get to.
I love it. I love it. I remember our first strategy session. And so one of the things that we do within our academy, which follows the retreat, is I listen to everybody's show, do a SWOT analysis, and give them feedback. And I remember listening to your show. Excuse my son screaming in the background. I remember listening to your show where originally it was long. It was like an hour. I think the episode I listened to was like an hour and a half. And the message was so cool, but I felt that it could have been delivered better to where it could be a lot more effective. And so can you talk a bit about some of the changes that you made in the show pre-Anchored Media and then after?
Okay, so after Anchored Media, well, before Anchored Media, yeah, it was way longer. I had like this weird intro that I don't know what I was trying to do with it, but yeah, that had to go. It was, I feel like the messages were more like just me talking. It wasn't like no like true purpose. Like, I wasn't getting it to where it needed to be. And then so after, I ended up, I also had a different icon as well that was a little distracting. So I changed my icon. I got it simplified and straight to the point. I ended up getting a new intro that described very quickly with one voice. If y'all go back, y'all might hear that other one. But yeah, that was new. I ended up shortening it a lot. I was just trying to bring the message together to where like I'm just not rambling, because I'd be getting off topic a little bit. So I was trying to bring that together, and then just allowing people to now create a community. So like now our email list is growing. So now, I'm getting people to join the email list, which is great. And then growing our community that way. So then when we actually launched our physical community this summer, it's like, okay, this is what we've been working up to, and it's come together because of Anchor Media just helping me get it all in line and everything.
I love it. It's one of the mistakes that I see a lot of people make with podcasts is a lot of people are great talkers, but not great communicators. And the key to being an effective communicator is for your message to be received the way that you intended to send it. So what happens is like a game of telephone where by the time it get back to the first person, it's a whole different message. And so with podcasts, if you're not a great communicator, it's going to be like a game of telephone. So your audience isn't going to respond the way that you want them to respond. They're not going to opt into the things that you're selling. They're not going to share. It's just not going to be as impactful. And so that's why within our program, I always work with people on communication, because it's a skill. And like I said, a lot of podcasters are good talkers, but to be a communicator is a skill that has to be developed. And so I'm glad just making the communication changes and the intro changes. I'm laughing at Charlotte because she had this intro that was the worst. And I can say it's the worst she ain't gonna be mad at me about it. It was the worst. And so it's always amazing to just see the shows transform and then to see the results, because we care about results.
Yes.
But I want you to, a question a lot of people ask is the difference between a seasonal podcast and a weekly podcast. And so you have a seasonal show and your show is still seeing increase even in the off season. So talk a bit about the decision to do seasonal versus weekly, and some ways that you keep engaged throughout the off season.
So I chose seasonal because I knew for sure I needed something where I could take some time to like regroup, reset, and make sure I was handling my self-care routine.
Yeah.
And it's crazy it fit in because I'm actually in school now, which is a whole nother thing. But how I keep them engaged now is I put out bonuses when I feel led to, when I'm feeling like, you know, I just had a breakthrough in something, like with my journaling or just maybe in my marriage. Like when I'm going through something, I'm like, okay, let me post this bonus. And I can even like record extra episodes like during the season and then post those as bonus episodes as well. So yeah, the season, I actually figured out, okay, I'm gonna do it about 10 to 12 episodes a season. I kind of try to plan it out based around like the holiday season so that I'm like engaged with my family during that time. So I basically just have been keeping them engaged because I've just been recording some bonus episodes here and there this season. But before, I was kind of doing the same thing. I haven't really been doing too much else. I mean, I used to post a lot more, but this season of my life, I have not been posting. So that's the only thing that's changed. I really think, though, with the email list, you can really keep people engaged because, like, we're doing a Bible study next month together, but it'll also be like journaling. So, like, different prompts to go with, like, what we're learning. So that's
And that's
another way.
right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, and I'm so glad that you talked about it, because a lot of people, like I said, they think they have to do a weekly podcast, but you don't. It's just
Mm-hmm.
creating a strategy behind what it is that you want to do and what's going to be effective for your listeners. And that's what I love about just the different shows we work with and how we do things at Anchor Media. Nothing is a blanket. Nothing is a one size fit all. Like, we have our best practices that we pull from and we incorporate for every show, but we have to figure out what is going to work for this particular podcast. And
Yeah.
so I'm so glad that you're sticking to your lifestyle that you want to live, as well as how do I then make that something that's going to be effective without taking me out of where I want to be, which is offline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about the investment. And so coming to our retreat, being in our program is an investment. So did you hesitate on making this type of investment into your podcast? And if so, was it worth it?
So I never was hesitant because I know that when you invest in yourself, like it's gonna pay you more on the back end. Like it's like that saying, like when you shift your focus, you can like change the trajectory of your future. And like if I'm focused on investing in myself and in my business, that's gonna only be better for my business. It's not, it cannot hurt me in any way. So I'm very happy. Like I don't regret anything about investing. Like I would do it all over again. Like, you know, if it was a Find Your Voice Academy, you know, part 2 or something like that, like I would do it all over because it's just amazing to be able to grow and like see something that God put on the inside of me, see it just blossom, like from this little seed planted into like this beautiful flower, and like being able to touch the lives of people. And yeah, so I would do it all over again because it's just gonna continue to grow.
That's awesome. Like I said, I'm so proud of you, to just your dedication to the program, to implementing things and seeing the results and the impact that you're making. The Bibles, all of that off the podcast is just, it's amazing. So like I said, I'm going to give you your applause right here, right now, because I'm so proud of you and the work that you've put in and the impact that you're making. So for any like advice or tips or anything that you would give those who are new podcaster or those who are on the fence about working with Anchor Media?
If you're on the fence of working with Anchor Media, you need to get off and just jump right in, jump into working with them, because like one thing I like, the most important thing from working with Anchor Media, I just think is like the fact that God told me told me to start a community a year ago, and I was like, I just started the podcast. What do you mean? But it was like your confirmation was just like, well, this company is rooted in God, so all the confirmation is just like, you can't be on the fence with that. Like, you got to know that when people want, like, they care more about your business succeeding than like anything that they're making off of you. It's like, it's deeper than just a company trying to help podcasts. Like, it's more about like getting your vision out there, and they want to help you do that. So it's like, if God told you to do something, if you know it's something you're supposed to do, like, you need to get off the fence and you got to do it, because delayed obedience, and y'all know, if like, I knew that I needed to do this. So if get off the fence.
Yeah.
And I think, for new podcasters, I just think like, don't second guess yourself, because for me, like, that was a big thing for me. Like, if you put your season out, even if you have to do what I did, like put it out there and not tell anybody, that might be what you got to do, but you know that you have something in you that you need to get out, and it's time to do it, and stop like procrastinating. Like, it's time to do it, because the more you think about it, the more you won't do it.
Yes. Well, thank you, Tyra. I mean,
thank you. I'm so appreciative to Anchor Media. I am forever grateful for your obedience.
Thank you. I'm cheesing because I'm just so proud. Like, you hit the nail on the head. For us, it's less about what we can make off of people. Like, most companies raise their prices for things after like a year. We don't raise our prices for the program, but we always are raising our value, because I care about the mission. The mission for everything we do with Anchor Media is to spread the airways with good news. That's why we have the application process. We want to make sure that we're working with the right shows. I don't want to build platforms for people or concepts that go against our values. I want to work with regular people who have a calling, who have a mission, who are going to be obedient to what God called them to do. Use me and my team's expertise to blow that thing up.
Yep.
So to work to see people like you who come to the program, who put the podcast out without telling anybody, to see a 300% increase, to almost selling out your product, to seeing just growth after growth every single month, to having this community where y'all are learning the word, y'all studying the Bible, y'all are growing together. Like, this is what it's all about. So I'm hyped. I could really run a lap right now, because I'm so proud of everything that you've done. And so, yeah, just thank you so much again for being here. For those of you guys who are watching a replay or you're here right now, we have an open house coming up on May 13th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link is in the bio. You can also DM us if you have any questions, but we are doing an open house to tell you about Anchor Media, what we offer, our retreat, and how you can have a success story just like Tyra's. Like I said, if you have any DM me here at anchor.media, or my personal page at tatum.harrison. I mean, that's not it. Tatum Tamia, Lord. You can also email us at hello@anchormedia.com. And that's it. Thank you, Tyra. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.